Interesting.
Do you know who else was a Brossette?
Go on.
Sean.
Oh, OK.
No. I bet he was. I'm sure he's told me about this. Sean has, you know, despite what he's doing today, when he's in between these hits, when will I be famous?
He's already famous.
Yeah, he is. And now he's famous with recycling. Morning, Sean.
Morning. Yeah, you mentioned bottle tops. I'm in the noisiest bit of the factory. I only heard you say the word bottle tops. There's plenty of those in here where they are separating the glass from all the other stuff that we put in our bins that we shouldn't do. It's a glass recycling centre in Sheffield, Viridor, where they use these two magnets. The one at the top takes out the steel, the one at the bottom takes out the aluminium. But it's those bottle tops, fascinating, that even though we're supposed to take them off the top, they actually manage to filter them all out and put them in a big pile, and they don't then go to landfill. They actually, along with all the other aluminium, the cans that end up in the rubbish that shouldn't, form a nice little big pile. They have loads of these and they can flog them and to people who will use this again for future use of aluminium. So just one example this morning. We're going to be looking at loads of what happens with our recycling, with our glass all through the morning. But first, we'll get a bit of news, travel and weather wherever you are.
Good morning from BBC London News. I'm Charlotte Franks.
This week. But what about the extra rubbish that's
How
left
many
over?
trips to the tip have you made?
None. I'm kind of holding it all there, hoping that some of the binmen will come and collect it in stages. But there's lots of recycling as well. So Sean's at a recycling plant this morning in Sheffield to find out what exactly happens with this. What is that, glass, Sean?
That is glass with bits of plastic in. So I showed you before how they get the aluminium and the steel out. What this machine does is get the plastic out, and it's amazing how it does it, because under here, this is optical, so they've got cameras looking out for any bits of plastic, and when it spots one, like a sniper, it shoots a bit of air that will take out the plastic and knock it under the machine. Just shows another part of the innovation that's gone on in recycling over the years about how we make the most of what we're chucking away. And so you look at some of the figures this morning, pretty big numbers. We're talking 123,000 extra tonnes of rubbish that we're chucking away this week. That's just in England alone. I've got Stephen with me here. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
So you're head of recycling for glass here at Viridor.
That's correct, yes.
Looking at everything we're looking at this morning, what is it that makes this a sustainable business for Viridor?
Yeah, so in the UK there's a high demand for making new glass bottles and jars. So if we get the right quality material into the plant, we can produce end-of-waste quality cullet that can be made back into new bottles and jars in the UK.
Because you're effectively a glass supplier. By the end of this, you've got glass that is good enough to make stuff out of.
Absolutely, so yeah.
Is that getting more difficult to provide that as good quality glass that people want?
It's difficult in the fact that sometimes the quality of the material coming in isn't as good as what we would like. So people do contaminate their recycling by putting in ceramics like cups and plates and saucers and non-glass material, which we have to separate out before it can be made back into a new glass bottle and jar.
And what do you make the new waste strategy that people at home are going to be finding out lots more about in the coming months, the way people's bin collections change? Well, effectively more food, but maybe fewer collections when it comes to the likes of glass, or less frequent.
Yep. Yeah, so what the important bit for us is to make it simple for the householders to be able to recycle easily, so the messages are consistent and clear, and allows us then to get the right quality product
Stephen,
to make it.
Thanks very much. We'll talk more about this over the rest of the morning. We have a chat now about what we can do at home, but also retailers. It's Christmas time. What should they be doing anymore? And we've got Margaret and Claire with us this morning. Morning to you both. Morning, Margaret. Kick off with you. Sustainability expert. We're in a place that's recycling glass, but generally, how are we doing as a country when it comes to recycling our stuff?
I think we're doing quite well, and we're about to do loads better because the government's putting in loads of new things that will starting to kick off in the new year that will give people much better options for recycling, reducing and reusing as well.
You think it'll work?
Yeah, I'm really hopeful, optimistic even.
Nick, Claire, all this week, I mean, we were talking about plastic bags yesterday, but generally, you know, all these bottles of wine that we're looking at and cans of beer that get in here, they're sold by retailers. Mm-hmm. Could they be doing a lot more? You're a retail expert.
Well, I mean, I think what we have to realise is as long as they're using recyclable packaging and they're making that clear to the consumer that they should recycle the packaging, then it's the best way of getting the product out there. There aren't really many other better ways of doing it. Although, I mean, I've seen in France where you can go to a supermarket and fill up your own reusable bottle from sort of a barrel of wine and those kind of things. But I think we're a little bit of a way off from that yet. But certainly the product needs to be protected, it needs to be shipped around the supply chain, and as long as we make an effort as retailers to use recyclable materials over the alternatives, then I think we're doing as much as we can.
And that's, of course, one of the advantages of glass is recyclable and recyclable and recyclable. So if you're buying glass, you know you've got a high recycled content.
So everybody's loving a bit of glass this morning, guys. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. I think this is my favourite machines. In our right bins.
Airjet snipers.
That's what they are, taking out the plastic that's in there.
Who knew?
I know.
I know, it sounds quite dangerous.
I feel like I've been properly told off.
Yeah.
Apologies to the recycling centre.
Problem, I'll try and find out who that goalkeeper was, who's responsible for that,
Oh no, let's
yeah.
move on.
who he was playing for.
Well, we like the details. We like the details.
okay.
Got to get the facts.
Yeah, you have. If you're gonna slate a goalkeeper for doing that, you want to know who's playing against. Kat, thanks very much. You all done? All tidied up after Christmas?
No, nowhere near. The recycling is piling up at the front door, literally piling up.
Mine's piling up around the bins. If you shove it around the corner.
It's horrendous, isn't it? That's the kind of the tricky thing about this time of year.
Yeah.
You build up to one day so much, and then the work to kind of clear it all up afterwards.
Makes you feel there's too much waste, actually. So we should be recycling
Definitely.
it. But can we recycle it all efficiently? Well, that's what Sean's finding out. He's at a recycling plant in Sheffield this morning. Where are you now? You've been showing us all the machinery. Where are you now?
Yeah, so this is the end product. Morning to you both, by the way. Morning, everybody else. This is what we've got called flint glass. That's the industry call it flint. We all know it's pretty much clear glass. You've got your green glass here, amber, all part of the separation process that goes through the end. Big, complicated process. So much waste this week. 120,000 tonnes more than we'd normally use. That's about, if it was just wine bottles, that'd be about 500 million wine bottles or one Munchetti household at Christmas. Let's have a chat to Stephen, who is the boss here at Viridor, about what goes on. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning.
Stephen, now we've got here, if we can just come across a little bit and let Malik, the cameraman, just have a look at all this. We've got different colours of glass, and people will be chucking out stuff like this.
Absolutely.
And thinking, well, hang on a minute, what's the point in me putting that in the wine bin?
Yep. Okay.
When you've got to end up with something with amber, green or flint. How does that work?
Well, how that works is that the glass manufacturing, they can make the colours match to what they need, so they can melt that down with the flint or the amber or the green colours, and the colour is diluted across to get to the right colour. So as long as it's glass and it's the right quality, it's okay for the manufacturing guys to make it into new bottles.
Gotcha. And bottle tops.
Bottle tops, for us, you can leave your bottle tops on or off because our process can handle the aluminium and the steel cans, and also it can extract the plastic, so it's not a problem to us to leave your bottle on.
But loads of people at home be going, hang on a minute, I'm being told to take my bottle top off before I put it in. Why is it so different in different parts of the country?
Well, that's because of the way that different plants are set up. So some plants are newer and more modern and have had more investment to handle the various. Other plants are older, and therefore they're not designed to have as much extraction, so they prefer a more pure mix going in.
Right, gotcha. Stephen, thank you very much for that. We're going to have a chat to a couple of experts in the industry now about where we go next. What more can retailers do? What more can consumers do? We've got Claire and Margaret with us this morning. Morning to you both. I mean, Claire, just first up, the retailers, looking at all those different coloured glass we've got there. I mean, you know, you've got something like this with a load of stuff you've got to peel off on.
Yeah.
Do retailers really take into account, do you think, the recyclability of this, or are they just trying to catch your eye on a shelf?
Do you know, I don't think many of them would necessarily know, and maybe it's part of the awareness that they need to put into place for their own sort of ethical practices, and work with their suppliers too to create better labels. Because I mean, this one is the sticky plastic, and I've been learning today about how much that contaminates in the glass recycling process versus the plastic label that would just slide straight off the bottle. So I think retailers and manufacturers alike could do a lot more to understand how to build products that look both eye-catching and increase their recyclability, if that's the word.
Margaret, you're a sustainability expert. We've talked to you about all this kind of stuff before. The relationship between business, the consumer, and then recycling places like this, who needs to be doing more? I know everybody does, but is there an area?
Well, that's it. Everybody does need to be doing more, but it's interesting when Claire was saying about partnerships. You often find that the retailers who are trying to do things better work with the resource management specialists, the people who run facilities like this, to make sure they're doing the right thing. But it's really important that householders take their responsibility as well, because quality is key. We want the right stuff in the right place, because that's why people want it. So we as householders need to make sure that we put the stuff in the right box and maybe make that decision when we're buying it. So think, can this be recycled or reused when we're buying it, rather than waiting till we've eaten or drunk the contents and then going, oh, now what do I do with it? Because if we do that when we buy it, then they'll do it when they make it.
Actually, on that point of quality, oh, Stephen's gone. I was going to ask him, you may know the answer to this, Margaret. In terms of the quality here, if we just come across here a little bit, Margaret, and we have a look, say, at something like this, how many times over can a bottle of glass be recycled and reused?
Pretty much forever.
So there's no issue. So do you think there should be more glass usage in everything we have?
It all depends. Glass is brilliant where glass is brilliant. Plastic is brilliant where plastic's brilliant. Because these glass bottles weigh a lot more than a plastic bottle. Right. So if we're shipping them around the world or even around the country, the environmental impact of the extra fuel for transporting it can outweigh the environmental impact of the materials it's made from.
Interesting. Margaret, thank you very much. Claire, thank you. We'll talk a bit more later about... We'll show you a bit more of the factory. It's some incredible stuff going on here. So many hundreds of thousands of tonnes of waste this week, but we're getting through a bit of it and making it a bit more useful here this morning.
Thanks very much, Sean. It's fascinating what we're seeing there, and good to know about your bottle tops as well.
Yeah, so glass is good where glass is good. Plastic is good where plastic is good.
If only it were that simple.
Good morning. So Christmas is pretty much done, but what about the hundreds of thousands of tonnes of rubbish we've been creating all this week? I'm at a glass recycling plant in Sheffield to see what more we could all be doing to make things better.
Good morning in sport.
We'll get a room later.
Oh, my word. Should we move on?
Yes.
I'll tell you what, let's do recycling, just to change the mood. Christmas Day is over, and that can mean only one thing. It's about time to start thinking about getting rid of all that leftover waste.
It's just piling up, isn't it? Piling up, piling up. Sean is at a recycling plant in Sheffield this morning, finding out what exactly happens to all of it. This gives you a little clue. That's the glass, I think. Morning, Sean.
Morning, yeah, it is. And the point of the factory where we are at Viridor in Sheffield this morning, this is where the plastic is taken out. Why is there plastic here? It's because we're not putting the right stuff in the right bins all the time. We've already had the aluminium and steel being taken out by magnets, but this is fascinating. So the way this works is, I'll just show you around here. The camera spots which bits of plastic are coming through, and when it spots a bit of plastic, an air jet is fired at the plastic like a sniper and takes it out and sends it down the channel there so that the rest of the glass can follow through into the process. It's pretty amazing stuff what goes on here to try and make all this glass reusable. We've got Stephen with us this morning, who's the head of recycling and glass here at Viridor. Morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
Now, let's just talk. You must have a great idea seeing all these bottles come through, piled up at the front, about just trends in our drinking habits. Yes. I mean, is there anything you've noticed more this year that you have to deal with than previous years?
Yeah, last year Prosecco was a predominant drink. This year gin has really taken over.
So gin in the last year?
Yes. Yes.
And what about like colours of bottles? Are we going for different colours more than we were?
Yeah, because of the gin markets, we're getting the blues and the pinks and all these different colours from the gin bottles.
And now one thing I've noticed, you see here, we've got the conveyor belts of glass all going round, but you actually take out the bottle tops here as well. So if you're sitting at home and you've had a message, unscrew your bottle top before you put it in the recycling, what should you be doing? Because you seem to be able to do that quite easily here. If it was this bottle top on this bottle of gin, yep, you'd be able to take that off.
That's right. So our plant has been built with special magnets that can handle the aluminium and the steel tops that are on the gin bottles and all the beer bottles.
Right, so you can take that here. Great. Stephen, thank you very much. Thanks for having us this morning. So I'm just going to spend a bit more time with my favourite machine, I think, just looking at how it filters out the plastic here. Because it is amazing how much contamination there is, even though we are putting things in the right place at the right time, a little bit more than we were.
We're learning, aren't we? There's a lot to figure out sometimes.
No, last time we said we were getting it wrong all the time, so maybe we're not so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe we've improved a little bit.
We're trying anyway.
Thank you.